Welcome to Tips, the Townsend Institute podcast series, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University Irvine. This podcast shares stories of leadership, coaching, and counseling experiences that have shaped the lives and careers of our guests, who then provide tips aimed toward helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Dr. Ashley Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
Welcome back, listeners. On today's podcast, Ashley and I chat with our colleague, Dr. Eugene Kim, about the world of artificial intelligence that is seemingly taking over many industries, positions, and certainly our communication. Dr. Kim serves as an associate professor in Concordia School of Education. His degrees from UCLA helped propel his career into both K-12 and higher education here in America and around the world.
Dr. Kim has extensive experience developing and leading study abroad programs, most notably at universities in China. His recent research interests include the growth, change, and ways in which AI is influencing today's educational and organizational landscapes. Listen in as we consider ways to acknowledge and embrace, not just avoid, the world of AI. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. Here we are with another episode of the Townsend Institute podcast series. We are interviewing today our friend and colleague, Dr. Eugene Kim. Welcome, Eugene.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Great to have you here about this ever important and popular topic of AI, especially as we head into a new academic year. There are so many things to discuss, so we want to jump right into it. But first and foremost, give us a little bit of your background, your journey to Concordia Irvine, and with that, how your research kind of brought you to the forefront of this whole AI epidemic.
Sure. I'd be happy to, Ashley. So my professional journey is a faith journey. I'll probably start with when I was a PhD student at UCLA, and my wife was 9 months pregnant at the time. And we felt that God was calling us out of Westwood and to take a step out in faith to start an educational nonprofit in inner city Los Angeles, serving homeless mothers and their children. A few years later, God called us to plant another ministry, a professional development school, with a Title I LAUSD charter school, and with Pepperdine University, where I served as a professor in their graduate school of education and psychology. And then finally in 2007, God called us to China. At that time, our kids were 6 years old and 2 years old, Emily and Ethan. And so with our two children, we moved out to Shanghai and we planted churches and schools. We also negotiated partnerships with over 50 universities, companies, and governments. And then as Dean of Asia Programs at Concordia University, oversaw graduate programs. And then since 2017, God called us back to Irvine. So we were there for a little bit less than 10 years, a little bit less than a decade. And then God called us back to Irvine to serve in the EDD program, the Doctorate of Education program, as chair of the Organizational Change Doctorate Specialization. And my wife is serving currently as Superintendent of School Innovation at the Pacific Southwest District for the LCMS. She oversees about 150 schools.
Oh my goodness.
So that's a little bit of our journey. And again, each part of the way was a step of faith. And it was God calling us to these things. And so just feel really privileged to have been part of God's work in the world and then having played a small role in that.
Eugene, I know the great work you've done with so many of our students internationally, right? Over the years at Concordia. And so I think it's so great. And now you've kind of got into something maybe new, maybe you've been doing this for a while. I don't know. It feels like this is kind of new in itself. So I don't know how long we could all been into it, but tell us a little bit about this work you're doing with AI, artificial intelligence, not Allen Iverson, but AI and education and all of that.
Sure. So in 2020, my daughter Emily began her undergraduate program at Berkeley where she researched artificial intelligence, machine learning, large language models. And even before that, I would say AI was a personal topic of interest, primarily in the form of fiction and film. But it was really through Emily's research at Berkeley that I began to see the connections with education. And so in 2023, I began reaching out to Christian colleagues that were in the educational technology field. And the four of us founded Genesis AI Research Lab. It's a faith-informed, education-applied AI research center. So the four of us, including myself, are Dr. Michelle Zimmerman, who is the author of Teaching AI. She was an expert in AI before it became a thing. So she's been in this area for probably about 6 or 7 years now, educational technology for even longer than that. And she's a thought leader in this field. She speaks all around the world about AI in education. Dr. Bernard Bull, he's the president of Concordia University Steward.
Yeah.
And he has served previous to his administrative role as an educational technology researcher. And then Dr. Jerry Zanstra, who is a former pastor, but now a serial entrepreneur. He's the founder of several ed tech companies and an executive currently at Ingenuity, which is an AI-powered tech company. And so currently I'm visiting schools, I'm conducting AI research with educators.
That sounds like a great team. I mean, I didn't know
amazing.
President Bull was on that too. And so it's called Genesis Research Lab?
That's right, Genesis AI Research Lab.
So now, having had the research lab now for it looks like a year going on 2, I'm assuming when we're talking about AI, there's both success stories and the advantages to such rapid growth in technology, but also some challenges and concerns that come with that as well. Can you maybe delve into those areas a bit?
I'd be happy to. So I would say in terms of success, I think that there's so much innovation happening, not only in the tech space itself, but in the ways in which people are growing in their connections and their engagements with the artificial intelligence at different levels. So you have everything from using AI to simply help you edit documents, right? So a lot of us use apps like Grammarly or have Grammarly working in the background for us, or even before Grammarly, we have built-in products through Google or through Microsoft that have been sort of completing sentences for us when we write emails, or doing grammar edits for us while we're writing. And so a lot of us have been using AI without even knowing it. But I would say some of the really interesting things have come about just by people playing around with it, right? So I was speaking to a chief executive officer about AI, and he started off by saying, I don't really use it. I don't know very much about it. And so I just started probing, well, what's something that you have used it for? And he said, well, I asked it to write a poem for me. And I said, well, tell me a little bit about that. And he started talking about how he wanted to write it in sonnet form, and he wanted to write about this topic, and he wanted to write it for his wife. And so he was talking a little bit about it, and he showed me how he wasn't just giving AI a blank slate and saying, just write a poem for me. He had an intent, he had a purpose behind it. And AI was coming alongside and not acting independently, but it was acting as what another colleague in the field has called AI as a co-intelligence. Right, that it comes in as a partner. And sometimes it's a thought partner, right? Sometimes it's more of an assistant. Sometimes it's more of like a courier, or someone who is your PR person, or someone who is helping you understand a concept better, or helping you communicate that concept better. So there's so many things happening across not just education, but across, I think, just both personal and professional worlds where people are engaging with it in new and experimental ways. And AI is something that is very misunderstood. It is something that people think is a known quantity, that there is some type of very precise way that it does things, but there is not a precise way that it does things. It's sort of like if I were to ask you, look at a 1-year-old and describe how learning actually happens with that 1-year-old. I bet you'd have you would think initially, oh, that should be pretty easy to do. And then quickly come to the conclusion, no, that's an impossible thing to describe. I have no idea how that 1-year-old is actually learning what it's learning about the world and its place in the world, right? And the very same thing happens with artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is based off human models of learning. And it's based off of, at least generative AI is based off of what's called large language models, which is the sum of all the written, verbal, and now even more visual expressions of human communication in the world that's available online. Because of these things, the machines are learning very organically, similar to how human individuals learn organically, and in a way that's really complex and really difficult to describe. So I think the best way to engage with AI then is to treat it as if it were an entity, to treat it as if it were an intelligence, not to treat it like you would a Microsoft app, right? Not to treat it like you would treat TikTok or Instagram, but work with it, communicate with it, engage with it as if it were someone sitting across from you and someone that you are wanting to engage with based on what your need is, right? So again, do you want it to help you ideate a new poem? Do you want it to help you write a piece of music? Do you want it to help you think about what to cook for dinner tonight, right?
Yeah.
So there are many, many different ways to work with it. And I think that starting with that basis, starting with sort of almost the humanization of it, and I know that there's a lot of resistance to this and there's a lot of controversy around this, but I really believe, and a lot of people that are behind the AI technology are suggesting and encouraging people to actually communicate with it, not as a machine, but as if it were an intelligent being, and to just have that conversation and see where that goes.
Now, I had that is really fascinating. And now my wife is going to be like, well, you need to start writing some poems here, because all this happens. So,
And coming up with dinner.
and coming up with dinner. Yeah, there's all kinds of. So within AI, I know we work at a college, and this has been a big thing within schools. What are some, concerns or misconceptions people might have within the education world about AI?
Absolutely. And I would say we've gone through several evolutions of this. And in the beginning, I think a lot of our concerns really were about academic integrity, about honesty, about the fidelity of student work and student learning. And I think those concerns still continue to today. They persist. But I think that those are very much 2023 concerns. I think we are evolving beyond that. And where we're getting to is we're getting to the point at which we are realizing that if we are using AI as adults already, and if we're realizing that AI is already embedded in a lot of our technologies, and that the best people that we work with oftentimes are most comfortable with using those technologies, just like all other technologies, right? When we first had smartphones, right? The people that were most adept at it were like they were ahead of the game. They were ahead of the curve compared to everyone else. If we think about when sort of personal computing came around, right? When we had personal computers at home, and then when we had personal computers as laptops, think about the people that were early adopters of that technology and how advanced they were in their professional work, right? And then think about the internet. Think about how the internet emerged. There was resistance around the internet. We didn't think it was going to be as big as it is today. But the people that were on board first with it often got ahead of everyone else. And so you see this happening in technology circles and technology cycles, right? There are early innovators and early adopters. And I think it's very similar for AI as we're thinking about what do we want for our kids for their future in the workplace, right? And their future in the world. We have to realize AI is a technology just like all of these other things that we've mentioned. And the students that are most comfortable with it, the students that are most adept at using it and being able to translate something that is technological to something that's pragmatic, right? Useful for life, right? And useful for work, those are the students that are going to go on to successful careers. Those are students that are going to get hired. Those are the students that are going to get promoted. And so if we realize that this is happening in our lifetime, in the next few years, that AI is a necessary skill, just like, when we have resumes, we list all of our skills and experiences. AI skills are going to be at the top of that list, right? For our young people.
Yeah.
And so if we recognize this, and if we accept this, and if we appreciate this, then all of a sudden our approach to AI changes, right? In terms of education. We're no longer okay with just looking at it as a technology that circumvents learning, right? We have to start embedding it in our own educational practices, right? So they have to be familiar with and comfortable with using the technology, not just knowledgeable about the technology, but we have to integrate it into their daily use and to their learning process.
Really, you're talking about just a paradigm shift in education, right? And thinking of all of those maybe from decades ago who tried to resist the internet, right? Well, they lost. Or resist social media. Oh, they probably lost. And so we're on the forefront of those trying to resist or fight back against AI. We're going to lose. So what you said, we've got to embrace it and put it as part of our educational practices. So can you speak a little bit to the educators out there, even the leaders in our organizations? How can we do that? What can I do as I'm preparing my syllabus and my assignments and my work in the semesters to come? What are some practical ways that I can do exactly what you're talking about?
Great question. And you can go in 101 million different directions with this, right?
I need AI to help me out
That's
here.
You actually could. You definitely could, and you should, right? I would say first and foremost, I'm going to go back to a prior point that I made. And the prior point that I made was the key to our human interaction with AI is we have to experiment with it. We have to use it. We have to try things out. And we should probably be doing this in community, right? We should be finding partners, communities of practice, where we can share out the things, not just that we're doing well, but the experiments that we're conducting and how we are inching forward in our progress, right? So both the successes and the failures, both the great accomplishments and the great learning that's happening, but also some of the things that maybe we had to think through more carefully as we try to navigate this technology that continues to evolve, right? Every single day, there continue to be improvements in the learning model, in the AI model. And so I think number one, experimentation. Number one, doing this in community, sharing out, learning from one another. In terms of some basic things that you can do with it, there are some platforms out there. So Saul Khan, who's the founder of Khan Academy, he has created an AI tool called Khanmigo. And he just announced this past week, I think it was this past week or the week before, he has created a partnership between Khan Academy and Khanmigo with Microsoft now. And with OpenAI by virtue of that connection. And now they are offering Khanmigo to teachers for free. And their vision, their mission is to have every child be given a tutor and every teacher be given an assistant around the world for free. And so that's what they really want to do with this. And so he's offered it to all teachers. So teachers can sign on with Khanmigo, and Khanmigo can help you write lesson plans. And this is generally K through 12, but I bet you can use it for higher ed as well. You could probably use it for corporate learning as well. So you've got Conmigo. There are a couple of other apps that are out there, AI tools that are out there. Like I would say magicschool.ai is another good one.
Oh,
So again, it does everything from helping you write lesson plans to creating rubrics to coming up with engaging activities for your students to looking at how to integrate standards, whether they're state standards or Common Core standards for K through 12 or university standards or course learning objectives or program learning objectives.
wow.
It can help you do all of these things in very creative, innovative ways, but ways that are very systematic and intelligent as well. So those are some of the tools that are out there. There's a whole lot of tools out there, and I can send you a link to some of those later on. But some easy examples I would say would be ask your students to have Chat GPT come up with a response to a discussion prompt. So, so for example, like let's say a question you asked me, right? So, how do we think about how to integrate AI with education? And so you can ask AI to come up with you could tell the AI, ChatGPT, for example, write a 250-word response to that prompt. And please include, some sources, outside sources, and, this is for a class that I'm taking on educational technology. So the AI can write that for you. And then what you tell the student is, now what I want you to do is I want you to take that writing product and I want you to improve it.
Yes.
So now this is your human voice, right? So now I want you to go take that AI product and I want you to layer on top of it your human voice, your human thought, your human contribution. So you're turning in two pieces of writing. One is just the AI product. The second is the improved product, which is the human plus AI interaction. And then what I want you to write about is I want you to write one paragraph about the delta. The delta is the change. So what did you do? How did you find areas of improvement? What was your thinking process? And what changes did you make and why? And why do you think those are good changes? So now we're talking about meta level thinking, right? We're not asking students simply to write anymore. So we have to get away from that. So that's one key thing is one of the things that we're going to continue to fail on is if we ask students to just write essays and we expect them not to use AI. That will no longer be an appropriate educational prompt. Write an essay, write a discussion, a response. Those kinds of educational practices will soon go by the wayside. What we have to do is we have to realize we now live in an AI-empowered world. So we have to transform our educational products so they represent that engagement with AI. So I gave you one example of that, right? And so not only are we teaching students how to write, not only are we teaching them how to think, we're teaching them metacognition, right? Or what I would call meta writing, right? They're asked to look and evaluate writing.
Yes.
Which is what teachers do. So we're asking them to be evaluators of writing. We're asking them to improve writing.
Right.
And then we're asking them to think about what that process was like and how that happened.
Well, and what you just shared there was something where you're not afraid of the technology, right? You're using ChatGPT, but you're thinking about how you can improve it, how you can change that, and how others can engage with, oh, okay, I see why you would have made that change. That makes sense. And they're probably all going to come out with something different, right? They're putting in different prompts and they'll probably come out with something different that they'll post up there. Yeah, wow. This is such a new world, right? I mean, you talk about even the difference in 2023 and now in 2024. Your daughter started this, you said, in 2020, was that right? With Berkeley. What do you think?
Well ahead of the curve. Good for her.
She was like the pioneer, right? She's like the people back in the day in the covered wagon going out there and exploring stuff. So but what do you think that you have maybe rethought even about AI We shared a little bit about it, but is there something really you want to key in on since you started this, even the research lab? Is there something that has really jumped out at you? You go, okay, yeah, we probably have to rethink this.
Yeah. So this is probably the first time that I'm going on record with this. So you're the first to hear this.
We like this.
We
Wow.
love it.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Dr.
everyone,
Kim.
listen up.
Yes.
Listen up.
So speaking with dozens and dozens and interviewing dozens and dozens of educators, educational leaders, practitioners, people working in research, one thing that I've come across is and it's hard to, initially get to this point in a conversation, but eventually what happens is I start hearing things about how the future doesn't look very bright anymore, right? As bright as it used to. And that maybe AI is contributing to that there's sort of this doomsday apocalyptic vision of what the future, and I think part of this is informed again by fiction and film, that maybe what AI is going to become is not something that's benign. And on maybe on a lower scale, that in the near future, and that's sort of talking about the far future, but in the near future, that at minimum, AI is going to disrupt our work life and the workplace. It is going to displace employment. It is already displacing employment, by the way. It's already happening. And it will continue to displace employment. And so we have to rethink what it means to be engaged with meaningful work as human beings in the future. And so I think that there's a lot of fear and anxiety associated with this. And I think that this is very common. I think people, even the optimists, have a degree of realism, right? That they realize, hey, there is a possibility that this could turn out not so good for all of us. But I think that what AI has the potential to do for us, and I think that this is something that a lot of social anthropologists have been looking at in terms of human development. A lot of the social entrepreneurs a lot of social anthropologists have been talking about how human development hasn't really accelerated. Technology has been accelerating at a rapid pace, but human evolution really hasn't, right? We haven't really, as a human race, improved ourselves in a very substantial way, outside of sort of the things that we've created, right? But as human beings ourselves, our bodies, our DNA, we haven't really improved over the last couple thousand years. And so the question is, so what is the future of the human race? And I really believe that AI has the potential, as we think about AI as a type of intelligence, right? That we often look at it as perhaps a competing intelligence with us, right, as human beings. But what we know about how the world works, competition oftentimes drives evolutionary processes. It drives development. It drives innovation. And I think in the same way, AI has that potential to do that for the human race. I don't think that humanity will become irrelevant. I think just the opposite. We're at an inflection point, I think, in our not only in terms of technology, but in human development, where because AI is accelerating so quickly, that the human race has to change to evolve around it. And so I think what it has the potential of doing is it has the potential of, as opposed to what people say about AI as perhaps replacing humans or making humans irrelevant or making humans less human, I think just the opposite. It has the potential to make us more human. So let me give you an example, right? So in the field of education, one of the things that teachers are afraid of is being replaced by AI, right?
Yes.
So we've been talking about how AI can help us create lesson plans, or how it can help us maybe grade papers or create rubrics for us. All of these things are great, but teachers oftentimes think about the role of a teacher as including those pieces, that what it means to be a teacher, right? That core identity of a teacher is that we plan lessons, that we, create learning activities, that we design rubrics, that we grade papers. And so even those things, and having talked to so many educators at so many different levels, the number one thing that educators have consensus about that they would rather not do is that grading piece. Like I would say
Yes.
that's pretty ubiquitous.
Yes.
Yes.
It's pretty consistent that
Mhm.
that grading piece is a drain on their energy. It's a
Mhm.
Right.
drain on their time. It's a necessary part of
Mhm.
teaching, but oftentimes it's also that thing that gets in the way between the relationship that they have with their students,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It creates
Yes.
friction. Oftentimes it creates friction. That
Mhm.
they're both the people that are trying to mentor and coach and help them grow, but they're also their evaluators, and they're the ones telling them when they've failed and when they've missed the mark. And so that oftentimes creates relational friction, right? And so
Right.
it's not nourishing of that relationship oftentimes, right? And there's ways to do that well, right? But
Yes.
oftentimes it ends up being that. And so when I raise the question of, well, what would it look like if AI took that for you and removed that from the things you had to do as an educator?
Right. What would that free you
Initially,
up to be able to do?
exactly.
Wow.
Initially, there is some excitement around that, but I've
Mhm.
had enough conversations with educators that as I delve deeper, there's a lot of resistance around that idea as well, too. Because again, they're thinking, does this then replace me as a teacher? What else is it going to
Mm.
replace? But what I really believe that if we can embrace this future, a future where AI can be an assistant to us, where it can come
Mhm.
alongside, just like if you were a teacher in a classroom, wouldn't it be great if you had 5 like highly competent, fully engaged, like trustworthy assistants, human assistants in
Mhm.
the room, helping you do your education? That would be an
Yes. Yeah,
amazing
sign me
gift.
up.
It would be an amazing gift. Now imagine having an assistant for every student. So you had a class of 20 students and there are 20 assistants. Imagine what that looks like. So AI has the potential to do that. Then what does it like, and actually you're saying this, what does it free me up to do? Well, it
Yeah.
frees us up to be actually more human. The grading, if it detracts from our humanity, detracts from how we envision ourselves as educators to be, then if that's removed from what our core identity is as a teacher, what does that free us up to do? It frees us up to spend time with our students to get to know them better. It
Yeah.
frees us up to work one-on-one with them. It frees us up to do more of the mentoring and the coaching and the apprenticeship that we know really works with students, right? It frees us up to be more human, not less.
That really is so good. I'm just envisioning all those professors out there who, office hours, whether it's in person or we're holding them online on Zoom. I mean, a world where maybe there's a few more office hours throughout the week because you're not doing the grading and the rubrics to just sit down and have conversation with
That's right.
students. I mean, here in the Townsend Institute, we're all about that relational piece. And maybe it's healthy, rich discussion about the course content, right? The topics, or even just the conversation about life, right? Which a lot of times is what our students need, sometimes even more. As we look to close out, just a couple last questions we have for you. I'd like to know a little bit more about Genesis and you and your partners there, and what you're working on, what's on the horizon in 2025.
2025. Well, we're still in 2024, but yes, currently we are working with schools to help them re-envision what education looks like. And so there are a lot of different models out there, and there are all sorts of different contexts in which people do education. And so there's no one size fits all. But what we really love doing is just coming alongside educators and asking important questions, essential questions, and then helping them to see that there is a bright way forward, a bright pathway forward, and just thinking strategically about that, right? Thinking innovatively about that, but also thinking empathetically about those things, right? How do we help people to feel comfortable about the change? How do we reassure people that this is not about taking anything important away from education, but it's a way of looking at how we can take that next huge step forward, that evolutionary step, that revolutionary step in education that's been missing in sort of the cyclical ways that we've been thinking about education or traditional mindsets about education. And we're all reform-minded. We tend to be reform-minded as educators, but there's been nothing like AI that's advanced that in a way that AI has. And so helping to just come alongside, again, educators and helping them to do that well. I would say in 2025, what we're interested in doing is we're interested in starting pilot AI classrooms. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm partnering with the Pacific Southwest District. This is still in the proposal stage, but what we're hoping to do is in 2025, implement what we're calling pilot AI classrooms. So classrooms that are willing to let go of that steering wheel, teachers that are willing to let go of that steering wheel and say, okay, so if I'm letting go of the steering wheel, where could we go? Like if I'm letting the AI drive some of this, what does that free me up to do? And sort of again that re-envisioning process. And so really doing some radical change and radical innovation with individual classrooms, not with whole schools, but individual classrooms first across the Pacific Southwest District, which is California, Arizona, and Nevada. So we've got a couple of classrooms that are already signed up for that. And so stay tuned.
Well, I think that's great that the Pacific Southwest District is jumping onto this and you all are a part of this. And well, as we get ready to end all of our sessions, we talk about a takeaway tip for our listeners. What is a tip you'd like everyone to walk away with today after our conversation with about AI?
So I'm going to go back to one of the first things I said, which is just experiment. Just get on, just sign on. So the first thing you got to do is if you haven't used it yet, sign on. Just sign on to Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, or sign on with Bing, or sign on with ChatGPT. Sign on with the one that you're comfortable with. Get on it and just start talking to it. Don't even worry about what you're saying. Just communicate as if you were communicating to Gilbert or communicating to Ashley. Just start asking it questions and ask it to start doing things for you. And sometimes it'll do it well, and sometimes it won't. But it's all about that experimentation. Don't be afraid.
That's pretty great. I like that. AI might be our next guest for our next episode.
Oh, that'd be exciting.
That would be fun. Yeah.
That would be fun. Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Eugene. We really appreciate it. We are excited to hear what's coming. I mean, you're just to be at the forefront of this research. Thanks for sharing it with us, and we'll be sure to follow along.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University Irvine. With programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.